Hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is end of day recap for Monday, March 26th. And what a big day it was for the indices. Nice recovery from where we were last week. A little bit of shake and bake, I would say, today. We opened up over 1% higher this morning, which has not really been a great pattern for us to open up at. And but we actually maintained the gains. We saw a little bit of weakness around 11 o'clock. Europe actually turned lower, which was a little bit troublesome this morning, and that's still going to be troublesome. So I don't think we're completely out of the woods here. You can see the DAX finished down 80 basis points, and you can just kind of see what happened to their markets throughout the session. Again, I always like to focus on just what's going on not only in the U.S. but what is going on globally. So Bloomberg is taking its time to bring this up. Let's see if I can just try one more time. Let's try that one more time. Oh, it's not. There we go. So you can see, yeah, right around this morning, 10:30, 10 o'clock, the DAX really sold off quite a bit. However, it came back at the end of the day. So I had kind of a mystery how that came back so much, but you could kind of see what happened to our markets. Which, by the way, before I switch off the daily chart, you can see that we did close higher than Friday's open, which is a good sign. We still have to recoup some of the short-term moving averages, but one day for one day, and looking at where we kind of turned at 11 o'clock, you had a nice bullish engulfing candle. We did get back into value, which I thought was going to struggle here a little bit, but we were able to get through, and we were able to go all the way through the value area for the day. Also, if you look at the 1 hour bar, which I will bring up as well, some really good levels off the 1 hour bar, and I'll go over to NASDAQ in just a second. But we actually closed in value for the week. So you got that one bar above. This was, I thought we had a chance to kind of rally up to the bottom of value, but we actually closed in there for the day. So 26, call it 2650 is the level to watch. Also, if you look at NASDAQ futures, let's see if I can bring that up. Looks like Thinkorswim is acting a little bit slow for me, but you can see that we also finished in value for the week. That's 6695, and some nice green bars there. And again, you look at NASDAQ, it's been much stronger. That did not get down to the 200-day moving average. That just got down to the bottom of March value area and turned around. And much higher than Friday's open there. And as well, I think we also took back the 5-period exponential moving average, which is good for that to happen. So we'll see if we get some follow through. It's been, I think someone was quoting that, there's been 3 days of 2% moves. So the volatility is still there. But I think it's a really good sign. We just haven't been able to have any type of movement to the end of the day that's been positive in over a week. So again, one day is not a pattern, but I think some positives came out of today. So just looking at a couple of the stocks that were the drivers for the day, and then I'll go over the option activity. But Microsoft, we saw some call buying in Microsoft. We've been seeing Microsoft call buying. It just really, the price hasn't followed it at all. We saw it in the beginning of Friday. We saw a little bit of call buying, and I tweeted that out on Friday that there was some call buyers in Microsoft. And there was a couple call buyers throughout the week. It wasn't just Friday. It's been pretty consistent with this name. And so what happened today? Morgan Stanley, the analyst over there, put a street high price target on it. I think 130 was the price target, which I'm just going from memory. But we saw call buyers come back into this name again. So you could see from right off the bat, we saw, and again, if you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see I mentioned that there was Microsoft calls right on the open. Then they also bought some January 19s. So really, I would say this was the name of the day in terms of option activity. 3 or 4 times we saw aggressive buying in the name. There was sweeps, right? It was swept above the ask. So several times in this Microsoft today. So I've been long Microsoft. I sat through last week's pain, and hopefully I'm back above my cost basis, which is good. I've been holding Microsoft calls for a while, but last week was pretty dicey. I just didn't see a point to selling, even though I did get a sell signal last week in Microsoft. So really nice. Today's option activity. I'll go through a little bit more of the tech names, but Newmont saw some really nice call buying, which is nice because I'm always looking for names that kind of fit diversification benefits, and Newmont is definitely a gold miner is definitely one of those names. A nice move above value. We saw a couple things today in Newmont. We saw a lot of accumulation going on in some April calls. These were the April 37 calls. And then after that, we saw some January 2019, a big block of the 45 calls went up. We also saw, excuse me, that was the January 2020 calls that went up. Also, we saw some January 2019 calls go up. They may have actually sold these April 40s. These also hit at the end of the day, but you could see that definitely there was a lot more call buying, even if that order of the April 40s was a sell order, and you could see finish close to the highs of the day. So I'm in this trade. I took one target off of this one. I didn't want April's and I didn't want January 2020s, so I went ahead and bought some June calls in this name. So nice diversification benefits, like I said, with that one. Also, a few other names to kind of talk about for the day. I thought Apple was setting up for a nice long today. I think some traders played this in the room, but we took out a couple days. We're back above the 50-day moving average. This just looked way oversold to me. You did have a bearish engulfing bar over here, but this was all, this was realized, right? We had a high of 183 and a half, false breakout, but we moved all the way down to 164. And I just thought it set up nice on a couple different time frames. If you go to the 1 hour, you could see that we did get into value for the week, and just had some nice follow through for Apple today. Also, Nvidia was another name. It took a little while for this name to get going. They have an analyst day, and typically what we see, especially when a name is a little bit beaten up, that a name could really rally when there's anticipation of an event. I think they have their analyst day tomorrow in the afternoon. So real nice move in Nvidia again, and it took a little bit of time. You didn't have to get in right on the open for this one, but again, pretty strong looking. Finished again, closed above the opening print for Friday, which again I think is very good. And basically, any of these names, and I know it's kind of tough when you see a big up day as much as we had, but just kind of looking at these daily charts, as long as you're defining your stop price and you're being disciplined. I did that with a couple names today. I went back into some names. Let me just finish just a couple other names. I already talked about Microsoft. Dow DuPont, another name that really was beaten up last week. They tried to buy the dip in this one. It has a lot of work to do. This one did not take out the open of Friday, but a name to keep an eye on. There is some support back here, and they came in a couple times to Dow DuPont. So what did I do today? So one of the best groups that I think that's out there right now, one of the strongest groups, is this tech and software group. Now, of course, Microsoft is a portion of that, which we already went over. But I actually devised an index because they're really, this ETF, it has a couple different groups of software in it, and tech in it. It's got some gamers in it. It's got EA Sports, some Take-Two is in there as well. There wasn't. Or I should say, there isn't a pure play. By the way, nice earnings by Red Hat after the close. I believe they're up. Last I checked, pretty strongly on this one. But I talked a little bit about this in the weekend video. But I put together an index because this is what I used to do, partly for. While I was an institutional trader at Merrill Lynch. Sorry, I'm just reading something. But you could see that this is a business technology ETF, and if you take a look at this, So it's similar to IGV, but this is a pure play on just names that go into small business and big business that are tech application software, enterprise software. So I call this business technology, and you could see back above the 50-day moving average. And if you look at some of the movers in this, of course you're going to see Microsoft is up there, but look at Adobe, was up 6.5% today. Hortonworks, Wix was up over 5%. Zen, which also received an upgrade this morning. Look at Autodesk. So there's a couple of really nice charts in here. Salesforce was a trade that I put on Friday that right off the bat was not working, but nice move today. Gets back above the whole body of the candle, back above Friday's candle, and found support at that top of the March value area. So Salesforce, I think, is pretty strong. Autodesk, I think, is a nice looking flag there, bull flag that you have. Also, VMware, I think, also is just kind of hanging out here. I think if it gets above the March value area, I think pretty positive. A few other names that are in this index. NTNX, which was all over the place last week. We could look at the Wix chart as well. But anyway, I think this really has the strength right now. This group, not the best looking candle, still an inside day for that Wix. Also, First Solar, which had the strength last week, very strong today. Again, right back to almost the highs of last week. Those solar names were up very big today. The semi names came back today. They were up 4% today. Banks came back from really getting absolutely smoked last week. The KBE ETF was up over 3%. The Chinese internets were up 3% today. So again, strength in a lot of other places. A couple other individual names that we saw in call buying. What was nice too is, we've seen a lot of index put buying over the last week in SPYs and Qs. We actually saw some call buying today, and a couple times in the Qs, some calls. So I view that as pretty positive as well. The China ETFs, we saw some FXI calls. Take a look at this. This is my favorite of the China ETFs. I know there's several out there. This one has both tech in it as well as financials. Notice that it closed above not only Friday's candle but above Thursday's candle as well. So we'll see if that puts in a short-term short-term low in the China ETF. Still has to get back above the 50-day moving average, but again, I like that there. And I might as well just look at the FXI because we did see some call buying in that late in the day. It does look pretty similar to that MCHI. A lot of names in common there, but above both Friday and Thursday's open. A few other names just to gloss over. There was a little bit of call buying in the financial space. There was both BAC and Citigroup calls should be on here too. I don't have them on here, but I'll have to add them to the recap. Also, American Airlines saw some calls as well. Sina, which is another Chinese internet name. This has been 3 or 4 days in a row that we've seen calls in this Sina. Now, of course, it got beat up with everything else. They report earnings, I believe, in a couple weeks, but sitting right at the 200-day moving average, and it seems like something's going on with that name that considering they've been going after calls now 3 or 4 days in a row. So we did see a little bit of call buying. We also saw some call buying in Intel. I was going to say in the financials and Intel. CCL saw a nice trade, a call spread bought versus put sold. A little bit of Micron calls today into the weakness. Also, just I'll kind of finish up here. Clearly a lot to talk about this morning, but I want to keep the video under 15 minutes. Google looked like it was going to break the 200-day moving average at one point up until about like 11:30 this morning, and actually closed a little bit above the open today, so finished up 2.68, and then a big turnaround. As much as I've wanted to avoid talking about Facebook because it's so overcovered at this point, but pretty impressive that this thing actually, look at the candle that this thing finished. So still way below the 200-day moving average, and not really a name that I want to participate in. It had one of these two last week, and it ended up going lower. But for those who are paying attention to this name in a lot of detail, it did finish up on the day, which is pretty remarkable considering that range. All right, guys, and I'll just leave it with Sorry, last one is I'm talking a lot about the FANG stocks and the tech stocks. Amazon is actually consumer discretionary, so we'll finish it here. But look at the candle today on Amazon. If I could get this to come up here. Well, I guess they'll probably end the video here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, look at Amazon. Took out Friday's candle. So again, a close above the open. You could set your stop to those moving averages, the 5 and the 20. So back above here. We'll see if Amazon has some continuation for tomorrow as well. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video, and have a great night.